All right. Moving from one colorful game to another, let's get down with some monkey business with a classic, though slightly obscure, action platformer, Toki. I'm going to just get right into it to try to save some time. And 3, 2, 1, go. So, one thing, well, let's start with, this is Toki, the story of buff jungle man Toki, whose girlfriend Miho was kidnapped by the witch doctor Vuki Medlo, and as he travels through 6 stages to try to recover his girlfriend. This game has something very in common with Fantasy Zone for me, in that I was introduced to it via the NES port, which I will say is actually a surprisingly good port. The sprites are a lot smaller, but the enemy placement and timing of the game is surprisingly faithful to the arcade. The big difference is that you get a life bar. You get at least 2 hits, and then as you fight through the game, you'll get power-ups from bosses to gain additional hits. Toki's controls are he spits energy that can be upgraded. He can jump on top of enemies, and then there's a couple of power-ups that change your shots or allow you to jump higher, or the football helmet that we've already seen that gives you full head invulnerability. And you'll see me take advantage of that. Though note, I did say head invulnerability. There are still many ways you can die even if you have the football helmet. This first stage here is kind of just an introduction to the game. You'll get to see a lot of nice... You'll get to see a lot of the power-ups of the game, introductions to enemies that will show up again later, just to give you a feel for how to get going. And a lot of people, I don't know, I hear from a lot of people that they think this game is difficult, but it's actually really kind in that it has tons of checkpoints, infinite continues up into the final stage. It's pretty nice for a one-hit kill platformer. Up until the final stage. And when we get to the final stage, I'll highlight a few things that I've found out. But here we go, the first boss. There's a couple of patterns I can get here, but mostly it's just mash until the boss dies. Like that. Now, unfortunately, I'm already a little bit behind because of my mistiming on Fantasy Zone, so I won't go reading the text in between stages. Just know that we are just moving through the jungle trying to get to Vuki Medlo's Golden Palace. And surprisingly, I did actually play this game in the arcade when I was younger. Having known the NES version, there was a miniature golf place close to where I grew up that actually had this on cabinet. Though in that one, I didn't get past the Stage 5 boss. Which is good, because Stage 6 would have eaten all my quarters and then caused me to be angry when I couldn't continue. But, you know, even though you have limited continues on the final stage, the game is kind enough to tell you how many continues you have left on Stage 6, which is impressive. And I kind of picked Toki back up, the arcade version of it, earlier this year when I finally bought the HD remake of Toki that was kind of in development hell for a while. It's one of those loving remakes where they did really detailed redraws of all the sprite work. If anything, I think it is actually the best Toki experience. They tightened up the gameplay a little bit. It looks beautiful. They added some variations on the entire 2-stage songs of this game. Another thing that makes this game nice and friendly is that it gives you multiple ways to get extra lives. You can get extra lives from points, you can get extra lives from collecting 50 coins, and then there will actually be extra live power-ups you have a chance to grab. Yeah, someone beat me to it. I was going to say, the HD remake is good, but not $20 good, because it doesn't take you $20 to beat this game. But right now, as part of the Steam sale, the remake is $4, which is actually pretty worth it. It's a feature light port, so all they did is they redrew it and got some and redid the music. They didn't really try to add anything. You know, one thing I really like about this game is they had some prototype sprite work where Toki didn't have his stunning blue eyes. Now, stage 3 is going to be a little bit tricky for me. This is one of the 2 stages I have to be careful with. These Firebirds are surprisingly hard if you don't take them out quickly. And then there's going to be a one-up towards the end of the stage that I might go for, I might not. Depends on if I'm feeling saucy or not. You're going to see me abusing the football helmet's invulnerability. Alright, 2 hits to this guy, so that way when I bounce off his head, it automatically defeats him, and I don't have to worry about him when I come back down. But I will say, the HD remake is probably the best Toki experience in that it tightens up the gameplay a lot. It removes the sprite limit on the spread shot, so you can just mash the fire button as much as you want. It takes some liberties in interpreting the sprites when it redraws them. Oh, here, this one, if I can get an extra hit on him early on... No, you're going to get to see his fireball pattern. No, I still got the early kill on him. Good. Whew. The problem is that those Firebirds that... You didn't get to see it happen, but they shoot a 3-way fireball spread that is very difficult for you to dodge with your larger hitbox. Alright, I'm going to try to go for the one-up bounce. Yeah, that's the trampoline one-up. You just bounce constantly. Even when your platform hits the other side of the lava pit and breaks, that bounces you into the air too. So trying to control that mess is always fun. And it varies on different gameplays because this game kind of has a semi-global timer to it and how the enemies act. Just defeat these ugly Yoshis and move along. The nice thing with the ugly Yoshis is to wait for them to stop and start breathing fire, because otherwise they will actively try to run away from you if you bounce on their head. Alright, come a little bit closer. I just want to bounce on your head. There we go. Toki was it 1988, 1989? So this little trick about getting behind Molgovar only works in the arcade version that I know of. I love nice exploits like that. Hey, and here's another reason why Toki's a nice game. Look, it's an ice stage, but it doesn't have ice physics. So, one thing about this game is I'll stick to just enjoying this for... I'll stick to just enjoying this for 1cc plays. Score runs on this game are a little bit silly because there's a lot of leech points in this game. There's a lot of places where you just leech as long as you can while trying to run out the timer. And then when you get to the final, or stage 5, not even the final stage, you just constantly keep dying on the boss who is an infinite leech in his own right. And then you have to run the entire final stage on no lives. And just leeching that stage 5 boss alone doubles the playtime of this game. Oh, you'd like to think we're done with the water. But this game, if anything about this game, it is almost completely random in how it likes to introduce enemies, use them for only one stage, and then forget about them. But also, it's kind of crazy in how it likes to randomly bring back stuff from previous stages. And we find ourselves once again in the water and fighting through some squid walls here. So at this point, things are going pretty well. This next boss has another great exploit. It's a giant ice mammoth that has 2 attacks. He can jump around, or he can throw his tusks at you in a boomerang pattern that you have to jump between on coming and going. Or, if you crouch, apparently all he does is hop back and forth and die. Alright, stage 5. Now things are going to get real. There's a lot of stuff that you just can't be ready for until you've seen it a couple times. Like these plant lizards. Also, that jump I did in the beginning is incredibly precise within a few pixels. So you have to get right up to the edge. Alright, let's get that power up, because that will help me take out the next couple of enemies. Let's see how these guys go. Those jumping plants jump at random heights, and when you're dealing with 2 of them, you can't just assure to fire in one direction and take it out before it gets to you. So it's always tricky. I'm going to go for this football helmet. This is tricky, but it will let me trivialize. Perfect. You have to kind of do enough of damage to take out that that lizard before it fires its second shots, because it can hit you in the air when you try to bounce off of it to grab the football helmet. So I like to do enough of damage to it so that when I bounce off of it, it defeats it as well as lets me grab the football helmet. And then I get to walk through that entire next section. That's actually pretty brutal if you don't have the football helmet. Don't jump there, you'll go right into those flying trilobites. Or horseshoe crabs. Never knew what. I'm just avoiding the flamethrower there. If you bounce up, if you try to jump up to grab the flamethrower, a ghost will appear. And trying to deal with the zombie ape and the ghost at the same time can be a little bit dangerous. But these sneakers are vital because they allow you to grab this one up here. Alright, we're going to bait out that plant, let it despawn or fall down into our shots, and then it's safe to proceed upwards. These roly-polies are completely invincible, but you can still jump off of them for points. Getting to the top of the waterfall, and we can start to see Vuki Medlow's golden palace in the background. Well, palace or just outright city. And now we get to one of the more notable bosses in this game, Bashtar. But he's also the big leech point. You'll notice that anywhere I shoot him gives you 50 points. Ooh, semi-quick kill. A few frames beyond what I'm used to killing him at, but still got him before a second or third cycle. And now, going into stage 6 right away, start shooting. That guy will start attacking if you give him a few seconds. And, yeah. Let me just highlight the dangers of stage 6 so that if you want to play this yourself, you know how to handle them. First, start shooting as soon as you get to the stage. These parts are pretty easy to read. Nothing tricky about that. But next up, we have 2 of these Reaper Apes. Yeah, I said 2. And these guys don't seem too tricky, but they have an invulnerability period after you hit them. And sometimes with 2 of them, they have a high chance that they'll just come down right on top of you while they're invincible, and you can't really do much to react to both of them fast enough. But if you back up a little bit and duck, they just keep going over your head. Now we have more of the armored apes again. And there's actually 2 of them, so stay close to that platform, because if that second one starts throwing too many of those beams, you can't jump between them fast enough. Just a leisurely stroll. Yes, that always works. And then you can barely see it, but there's a flying ape head on the far side of the screen here that you want to take out at a safe distance, so that way you have plenty of room to take him out as he bounces towards you. So far, so good. We have 1 more row of armored apes. You want to duck, because on that bottom step, they will hit you with their beams if you're not ducking. They also get faster as you damage them. And now, anyone who's played far enough into this game knows the minecart section. I'll just highlight a couple things. Jump early, so you can get a second jump in to get the football helmet. This will let you live to hit the checkpoint. Jump early again. Walk through those guys. Without that football helmet, you would pretty much walk directly into him, but at least it's right after a checkpoint. But having the football helmet also lets you get that one up. Refresh the football helmet. Jump after the big pillar. Skip the bunny ears. They're a trap. And then do a nice long jump, and hey, you still have a football helmet that lets you walk right through all those enemies. The worst part about the minecart is in every version of this game I've played, the minecart differs. Also, shout out to Vuki Medlow's Rave Robe here. So those things slightly adjust their trajectory at you. And I guess I jumped too early. But we're still in good shape. Plenty of extra lives. Also, if you miss that 1-up or die when it's partially on the screen, you only get the first attempt to get the 1-up. Every other time, that turns into a coin. I would have liked to have seen a deathless run of Toki. That was close. But here we go, Vuki Medlow number 2. I like the flamethrower just because it lights up his robe like that. Alright, phase 2. He has 3 attacks here. I like the one where he sends the blue flames appear around his hand and they come after you, because it gives you a lot of time to like sneak up underneath and get some shots in. But the safer one is if he does bombing runs, where he just flies back and forth and tries to drop some bombs on you. This one's a little bit tricky because his head, it locks onto your positioning slightly before it comes out. And, ooh, that was close. He almost had me cornered. That might have hit me if I had not taken the second hop there. Warning coming up, there's going to be a little bit of full screen flashing with a rainbow strobe on Toki. Nope, got to stop my timer. But that's game. And that is Toki. You get a nice, lovely ending of Toki being returned to Muscle Jungle Man, and he gets reunited with Miho. I like the redrawn sprites in the HD version of this because they look like they're in slightly different planes, and it looks like Miho wants to run right past Toki at that scene. But now, the game gives you some life lessons, and then taunts you to try to do it again immediately, even though there's no second loop of this game. And we get a nice little staff roll showing off all the enemies of the game and their crazy names. But best of all, on this staff roll, we get to see the actual staff, and we get many, many good faces. I always like Drew and Frank and 10 in the back there. They look like they were added afterwards. But there you go.